Welcome to the 1860s. The Civil War has just ended, industrialization is taking full swing, and New York is booming. Just one problem though. How are you supposed to get across the river to New Jersey? Sure, you could take the ferry, but it's so slow and dirty. If only there was some faster, more convenient way to travel. The Uptown Hudson tubes are the tunnels connecting Jersey City and the surrounding towns with Midtown Manhattan. The path, the system that runs the Hudson tubes, sees over 300,000 people riding it every weekday. However, building these tunnels weren't easy. Three separate entities tried, and only one succeeded. We begin with DeWitt Clinton Haskin, born in 1824, was a military engineer who served in the Civil War as part of the Union Army. A Californian, he made the transcontinental trek to New York and on the way stopped at Omaha, where he saw how they constructed the piers on the Mississippi River. A caisson, essentially a sealed large metal box, is dug into the water, and compressed air is pumped in order to drain the water inside and keep groundwater from seeping in during tunneling. With these caissons, workers can basically dig through the sea floor until they hit some hard surface like bedrock in order to lay foundations. Haskin had seen what they do to dig underground in Omaha and thought it was a good idea to use that same technology to cross the Hudson. He founded the Hudson Tunnel Railroad Company and raised $10 million in funding to build the crossing, today about $250 million, and started in 1879 after years of legal battles with ferry companies that did not want new competition. The tunnel would run from 15th Street in Jersey City to Morton Street in Lower Manhattan. However, disaster hit in 1880 when an explosion during the tunnel's construction killed 20 workers. The disaster destroyed any remaining funding for the project, and work eventually stopped in 1883 after the company ran out of money. Haskin died in 1900, disgraced, blinded, and broken. 5 years after Haskin's company went bust, investors from London raised money to form the Hudson River Tunnel Company in order to complete the work that Haskin started. Despite Haskin's failure, he still managed to tunnel about 1,200 feet from its starting point in Jersey City. This time, however, they brought in technology that had been used to dig the London Underground just a few years prior. The new innovation, at the time known as the Great Head Shield, protected workers and prevented cave-ins, solving a problem Haskin couldn't solve. This time, construction was a lot faster and a lot easier, with about 1,600 feet being completed on top of Haskin's tunnel and a second tunnel also beginning to take form. However, British investors were a bit miffed on how much they were spending, with the company having to ask for extra money on multiple occasions. Despite lots of progress, it wasn't fast enough, and the British company went bust in 1892 after investors denied more funding to the project. At the same time as the British investors were abandoning their plans, Gibbs Mikadoo had just arrived from Chattanooga, Tennessee. A lawyer by trade, he came into contact with other fellow lawyers, and specifically one who had invested in the previous tunneling efforts, and talked about a possible trans-Hudson tunnel. Mikadoo, not yet aware of the previous failures that came before him, saw a great opportunity. In 1901, after talking with a prominent New York engineer, Charles Jacobs and Mikadoo personally went into the abandoned and decaying Haskin and British tunnel, stumbled on the abandoned tunnel shield, and just declared it mechanically safe to operate and planned to reuse it. As he gathered support and funding for the project to complete the Hudson tubes, his visions for a grand subterranean railway began to take shape. Mikadoo founded the New York and New Jersey Railroad Company and managed to secure $8.5 million, also about $250 million today, to complete what Haskin started almost 3 decades ago. Jacobs, now the chief engineer of the railroad, further innovated on the construction techniques used, such as pushing silt out of the tunnels directly without having to cart it back and forth, lowering construction time and decreasing costs. Just 404 days after Mikadoo started construction, the tunnels had successfully holed through in March of 1904. When Mikadoo walked through the tunnel, he remarked, "For the first time in the history of mankind, man walked on land from New Jersey to New York." The Uptown Hudson tubes were opened to great fanfare, being hailed as a great engineering marvel by the New York press at the time. Service began at midnight on February 26, 1908, with over 50,000 people riding it on its first day of service. It took passengers from Hoboken Terminal to the now closed 19th Street station. The old ferries that once dominated cross-Hudson travel were now rendered defunct by this new rail line. Mikadoo was seen as a hero, and these tunnels were projected to save passengers thousands of hours in travel time every year. Today, the Uptown tubes serve millions of people and thousands of trains per year, and are still to this day one of the fastest ways to get between Midtown Manhattan and New Jersey. These tubes were built to last, and more than 100 years later, they still stand strong as a testament to the will and effort of those who built it. The Uptown tubes remain the lifeline of Hudson County. Alright, hi. Long time no see, right? Um, I don't have any other path footage, so you're just seeing the Newark light rail right now. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far and you're actually watching, people watch this, what the hell? Um, yeah, thank you. Subscribe. I don't know. Don't subscribe. Bye.